So you're reviewing content for the Non-UGA Programs Pre-Departure Orientation, and in this section we're going to talk about some things that you should know before you go abroad. So just a little bit of tips and tricks, things to keep in mind as you're preparing for departure. So just to give you an overview pretty quickly about the type of things that we're going to talk about, money, really important thing to keep in mind whether you're traveling for a week abroad or if you're going for a full academic year. So some really important things to keep in mind as you're preparing. Packing, always lots of questions about that. Electricity and technology, some things to keep in mind while you're abroad, and then some final logistics just to tie everything up together. So money, let's get this sort of out of the way. The first thing that you're going to want to do when you are planning to study abroad in terms of money is to alert your bank and your credit card companies that you're going to be traveling overseas. So you're definitely going to want to tell them where you're going to be based. So if you're going to Paris, France, you're going to want to tell them that you'll be in Paris, France for the majority of the time and then the dates that you'll be there. But you're also going to want to mention any potential countries that you're planning to visit. So whether you have those travels already set in stone, or if you are thinking, while I'm in France, I also want to travel to Germany, or maybe I want to go to the UK, tell your bank any of those potential areas where you might be traveling, just so that if you do go there, and you use your debit card or your credit card, they're not going to automatically assume that this is fraudulent activity. So it's possible that while you're traveling, they may shut down your card, even if you're in an area where they know that you'll be. Some banks take this as a precaution, so it's just good to give them a heads up. Then they can easily reopen your card when you call and verify that you'll be there. So please, before you do anything else, make sure that your bank knows that you're planning to travel. Another thing to keep in mind is if your credit or debit card has a chip in it, and I think most cards these days do, but if yours doesn't, you're going to want to make sure that you do have that. This is just an extra bit of security that's comes with your credit cards or debit cards, and so it's really good to have for while you're traveling. And nowadays a lot of places will not accept debit cards or cards at all. They won't swipe. Sometimes they just only have the chip capability, so it's better to have that just in case, so that you can use your card if you're in a shop or someplace where you'll want to use your card if you don't have cash. So speaking of cash, we get a lot of questions about how should I order currency, or should I just wait until I get to the airport to exchange any US cash that I have, and it's really up to you. I would think a little bit about it, research your options just to find out what would be best for your situation. But if you really like to plan ahead and the exchange rate is in your favor, I would say go ahead and buy the currency before you go, and that way you'll have some on you. Now you're not going to want to take a bunch of cash with you, but maybe take a couple $100s to have on you as you're traveling, so that when you're in the airport, if you need to get a train ticket or a taxi, or food or anything before you get to your actual destination in your current city, you're going to want to have some cash on hand to use. So if you're looking to order currency, you can do that at your bank. I think some post offices do that. You could go to a variety of places to do that, and it may come at an additional fee, and you'll just pay attention to the exchange rate. So plan out ahead how much money that you want to have on you if you're going to do this before you get abroad. You can also use an ATM in the airport when you arrive. You're going to be paying foreign transaction fees if you do this, and then of course the exchange rate and things like that. If you're rushing, if it's just a really hectic airport, if you're not sure if the ATMs are secure, this may not be the best choice to make to get your money from the ATM when you arrive. This is what I usually do, but that's just me. But I would strongly suggest you to buy your currency in advance before you go. But again, you can always use the ATM or the currency exchange counter in the airport when you arrive, sort of as a last resort. But as I mentioned, if you're going to be using ATMs, you'll be charged a foreign transaction fee, most likely, if that's a part of your credit or debit card. So one thing that you can do ahead of time is to research sister banks for the particular bank that you're using so that you can get an idea of what their partner banks overseas may be, and then you'll either pay a lower exchange or lower transaction fee or no foreign transaction fee at all. So if you can't find that information online, call your bank and just find out, hey, what is Bank of America's sister bank in France or in Europe, so that I know that I can use these ATMs when I see them. As far as budgeting and spending money, just, you can really strongly bank on the fact that whatever money you do bring, you will spend, and you'll probably spend a little bit more. So prioritize, make a list of things that you are planning to get or what you want to buy in terms of souvenirs. I know that point is a little bit unclear on the slide here, but do prioritize and make a list of things that if you're looking to get certain souvenirs, you know what those are, so that you're not spending here and there and then lose track of the cash that you do have. You'll want to contact your program director as well for suggestions on how much money you should budget for the duration of your program. Every student is different. Some students can spend a lot of money, and other students can be pretty frugal while they're abroad and really don't have many issues with spending money, but so take those suggestions pretty lightly, but again, prioritize and do try really hard to budget. And this is sort of like thinking ahead here is with financial aid. You will receive any financial aid that you receive will be dispersed directly to you 10 days prior to your program start date or the start date of that same term at UGA, whatever date comes second. So just keep that in mind. You will pay your program directly ahead of time, but if you receive Hope or Zelle, any other financial aid, that will be dispersed 10 days prior to the start date of your program. So keep that in mind, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later too. So with packing, you don't need as much as you think that you will need. So one thing that I suggest is to plan out what you're planning to pack and maybe get everything ready a couple days in advance on your bed or in your floor, and just to see visually what it is that you're planning to bring, and maybe cut that amount of clothing in half, because you're going to want to make sure that you have comfortable clothes and you are pretty practical with what you're planning to bring. Another thing to keep in mind is that you'll probably be walking a lot more than what you're used to here in Athens. So bring comfortable, practical shoes for walking. If you're going to get new shoes, that will be that type of comfortable, practical shoe for your experience. Make sure that they're broken in before you get abroad, because again, you'll be walking a lot, so it can be really painful if you're trying to break them in at the same time that you're going to be using them. And just as you are thinking of things to bring, try to blend in. So dress appropriately for the weather and the host culture. And just do some research ahead of time to figure out what do people wear in this location. You might find in certain locations jeans are not really common. Not that it's wrong to wear them abroad, but if you're trying to blend in, maybe have nicer pairs of pants or slacks or something like that, and maybe not very logo heavy clothing, just so that you can try to blend in. For however long that you're going, I suggest that you try to mix and match your clothing. So try to bring clothes that have really basic colors that can match a variety of styles of pants, or whatever you're planning to bring, so that you can get more outfits out of what you're planning to pack, and so that way you can cut down on how much you're going to bring. Another thing too is that a lot of students tend to find clothes in the local area, and you'll want to save some space in your luggage to bring those home as well. One suggestion that I have, and this is usually what I do when I travel overseas for longer periods of time, is to bring clothing that I don't mind getting ruined or just to toss before I come back to the United States. So, don't bring raggedy clothes, but try to bring some things that may be older that you're like, I've worn these for a couple years. It can go in the trash before I come home, not a big deal. It does save some space. But that's just one recommendation if you'd like to take that. And then once you have everything packed, practice carrying your luggage before you even leave for the airport. So maybe the night before, try to carry your suitcase, anything that you're bringing. So if you have a carry-on bag, if you have a bag that you're planning to check, if you have an additional bag, try, walking around the house or your apartment with all of that luggage for an hour or so beforehand, just to get a sense of what it's going to be like when you are left carrying all of that stuff by yourself. So go up the stairs a couple times, and if you find that this is really, really difficult, then you may need to reevaluate what it is that you're planning to pack. So just be prepared for fewer elevators and escalators while you're abroad. If you're going to places that have cobblestones, just be really prepared for that. It's not the most convenient for carrying luggage. If you're going on trains or small buses, if you're going to really highly populated locations, just be prepared to not be bringing your entire wardrobe, because it can be very, very difficult. So just really think long and hard about all of that. And last recommendation is to save weight in your luggage by trying to buy any toiletries that you may need once you get to your host country. So, for sure, maybe stop at Walmart or Target and get those carry-on toiletries, shampoos, and soaps and things like that, so that you have them for the first couple days that you're in the country, and then when you have time you can go out and buy bigger bottles of soap and anything that you may need if you're going to be there for a long time. You can probably find most brands that you would need overseas, so try to do yourself a favor and not bring a whole bunch of that stuff initially. So with electricity and technology, you're going to want to research what the voltage for your country may be. So just to give you an example, in the US we use 110 volt alternating current, but most of Europe uses 220 volt direct current. So that's a different flow of electricity, and so because of that, you're going to want to adapt the way that you use any type of electronics while you're abroad. So if you don't have these items, you can easily find them in places like Walmart, Target. I've seen them in TJ Maxx. You can go to Best Buy, a variety of places to get a compatible plug to convert the plug and a transformer to transform the electrical current. So the orange adapter that you see up there, that sort of adapts the plugs that you would use. So most areas have different plugs than what the US is. So if you're trying to use your hair dryer, you can't just easily plug that into the wall because the prongs on there won't fit. So you'll need an adapter, and then you'll need the box below, that gray box, that will adjust the flow of electricity so that you don't over fry your equipment. But I do recommend that for blow dryers, maybe hair straighteners or curlers, electric shavers, anything like that, any of those grooming type of things, just to leave those at home. First of all, it saves space if you don't bring those, and second of all, even if you have these this equipment to change the voltage for your blow dryer or whatever, they still can fry and you can damage your hair. Even the most experienced travelers have had issues with this. So all of the adapting electricity and technology in the world can still result in some major issues here. So I would suggest that you just leave them home and try to buy in country if you can, if you're going to be there for a longer period of time. Sometimes you can find them relatively cheaply and they are already compatible with the flow of electricity in that country, and the prongs already match the wall plug. So yeah, so save a lot of anxiety by just leaving all of that stuff at home. So going through customs, this is important. If you've never traveled abroad before, you may not understand or really know what's involved in customs, so we just want to make sure that you're prepared for going through that. So it's relatively simple, not a big deal. It's just their way to vet everybody coming into the country. So usually how it works is while you're on the plane on the way to your destination, the flight attendants will hand out a customs card. Sometimes I've gotten them as soon as I've been on the plane, and the flight attendants are like, fill this out now so that when we land you don't have to worry about it. But most of the time it'll be right before the final descent. They'll come around with pencils and the cards to fill those out. So you'll just want to give the information, your reason for travel, your dates, if you're bringing anything into the country, where you'll be while you're in the country, and your reason for being there. So have your information for where you'll be studying on you so that you can easily fill out that information. And then once you get off the airplane, you'll speak with a customs agent. So that's sort of what you can see in the picture. Just some general tips: be polite, but be confident. You don't seem really nervous, because it's not a huge trouble. They just want to check your card and your passport, and they may ask you some questions, or they may not ask you anything and just stamp your passport and go. So just be prepared for that. They're probably seeing a lot of people and having long days, so if they seem pretty grumpy, you're not doing anything wrong. Don't be nervous. It's just the way that it goes sometimes. But just to make their job easier and to make your time going through customs easier as well, have within your carry-on bag your program details, the dates and address for your program. If you have an acceptance letter or email, print that out and have that with you, so that they can see that you are actually studying abroad or interning abroad and you have that permission to be there. If you have return tickets, you're going to want to show them as well. Give an itinerary for the time that you'll be in country. Some programs might provide this to you, others may not, but just to give them an idea so you can be really upfront with what you're planning to do while you're in country. And of course have your passport and your visa ready and accessible. So they'll stamp that and then they'll give it back to you, and afterwards you'll collect your baggage and go through security, and it's pretty simple from that on. So that's what going through customs is like. So while you're abroad, some things to keep in mind. To everyone you meet, you are the United States and you are Georgia and you are UGA, so we ask that you are a good representative of all of these places. You may not want to be the ambassador to UGA wherever you are, but that's how other people might see you, and so it's just good to keep in mind that you want to be the best that you can and just, give people a positive impression of the United States and Georgia and UGA. So think about your actions, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, in the context of the culture that you're in. So this goes along with researching cultural behaviors and, becoming more familiar with what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So, one example that I can at least give is that, if shaking hands may be a cultural behavior that we're used to, but wherever you're going, they may not be used to it. Or, giving a thumbs up to say, to affirm somebody or just to cheer them on, for us, is pretty positive, but maybe viewed very negatively in other cultures abroad. So just, be pretty conscious about what you're doing, and things like that. So just get to know some of the cultural norms of the countries and cultures that you'll be visiting so that you can be a positive representative for all of the places and things that you represent here in the States. For accommodation, this is going to vary from program to program. So some students may be in host country or host families, and other students may be in dormitories or off campus in student apartments. So it's really tough to say what you can really expect for your particular experience, but if you aren't sure, talk with your program director to find more information about the particular accommodation that you can expect for your program. But for everyone, be ready to experience some differences there as far as the size of the room that you'll be staying in, whether or not there's heat or air conditioning, and just customs of where you'll be staying in that particular building or house or, whatever. If you're staying in a host family or if you're with other roommates, just, of course, be respectful of what they may expect for you as a guest or as somebody staying with them. Usually host families can be really accommodating and they let you come and go as you please, but you are staying with a family and they may have different things that they value. So if you're planning to be gone for a roommate or if you're not coming home for dinner every once in a while, make sure that they know that in advance so that you don't cause any conflicts there. And just, talk to them, get to know them, and see what they are going to want to expect of you living in their space. In addition to that, if you are planning to have guests or visitors at any time, in advance find out what the rules are among your host family or your roommates, just to make sure that you're not sort of overstaying your welcome. But as long as you can get that information ahead of time, then you'll be set up to have a really good experience and to learn a lot from your host family or your foreign roommates. So computer and internet access, this might vary everywhere that you're going. You're probably going to have internet access in your host university or program, maybe even the place that you're staying, other parts of campus and places in the city, but you might also find some cyber cafes as well. These are not as common these days, but if you're in a crunch, you still might be able to find some wherever you're traveling. If you want to bring your laptops, that's fine, to do your schoolwork and things like that. But just be prepared to be really careful with that and to make sure that you're secure with the things that you're exploring on your computer, using the cloud or Wi-Fi or things like that. Make sure that you're not sharing, your personal information is secure so that if you're in a cafe using the Wi-Fi, people can't hack into your laptop. So just be careful about that. And just, be careful with breaking it and where you're traveling and things like that. Sort of as I mentioned, consider secure online backup, the cloud, or any other online resources that you can use to secure some information in case you break your laptop or it's stolen or lost, or if you're not bringing it at all, so that you can access it from maybe your campus computers. A last point I want to mention is to not overuse maybe the internet or various social media sites like Facebook. You're going to want to make sure that you take full advantage of your time overseas, and I've seen some students really have a difficult time adjusting because they spend a lot of time on Facebook catching up with friends and family and seeing what's happening while they aren't there, and that can make you miss home a little bit more. So try to be really present in your experience and not you spend all of your time talking with friends and family back home because you're just going to miss out on a lot of the really good benefits of studying abroad. So as far as academics go, be prepared for what could be a very different academic system than what you're used to at UGA. So the classes that you're taking, the subject matter may be very different from what you're used to, especially if you're taking maybe core requirements or electives or things like that. So just be careful, just be prepared for differences there. The academic calendar might be a little bit different, so there might be certain holidays that you aren't expecting, or maybe you're used to a certain holiday that you don't get while you're studying abroad. Maybe just the way that the classes are scheduled is a little bit different. And then on top of that, the work styles that are required for these courses might be a lot different as well. So maybe you're not used to studying very much here at UGA for your classes, but maybe the courses that you're taking abroad require a lot of extra time studying outside of class time. The formats of your class might look very different as well. So you might be used to discussion-based classes here at UGA, but maybe while you're studying abroad, it's more lecture-based. And so if you have a difficult time with that learning style, just be prepared to try to do well in that type of format. And if you need help, try to go to your faculty member while you're studying abroad. But be aware that faculty and student relations may look very different than what you're used to here as well. So maybe you're used to calling your faculty here at UGA by their first name, and while you're studying abroad, they are very formal and you have to call them, professor, whatever their name is, or doctor, whatever. Or it could be the opposite. When I was in college, professors expected to be, be used, have their formal names used by students, but when I studied abroad, all of my professors expected me to call them by their first name and wouldn't respond to, doctor, whatever. So just be prepared for that. It can be shocking for some students, and maybe if the relations are a little bit less friendly, or just there's less interaction there, if you're struggling in class, you might need to think of alternative ways to make sure that you can be successful in class if it's harder to get help from your faculty. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you're familiar with what the evaluation and assessment style is going to be like for your classes. So you might find that there's a lot of lectures and then maybe no homework, maybe no assignments throughout the semester until one big final paper or final exam at the end of the term. And so that's what your grade is going to depend on. So just be prepared for that and make any adjustments necessary so that you can be successful in your courses. And I just want to mention too with academics that part of the study abroad experience is adapting to a new academic and cultural system, and that this endeavor overall is academic based. You're studying abroad, unless you're interning abroad, but if you're studying abroad for academic credit, You know, it's important to take your academics seriously, and of course we want you to explore the culture and to get out and see new places and experience new things, but also keep in mind that this is an academic endeavor and we really want you to be successful there. On a different topic, let's talk transportation. This just goes into, you know, being really safe and situationally aware while you're abroad. If you're walking around the city, just be aware that traffic patterns may be really different. Pedestrians may not be given the right of way as you may be used to here in the United States. So stop, you know, look left and right, or right and right, left, right, you know, whatever the culture of walking and traffic patterns tends to be in that area. And you know, if you're walking around a city and you're sort of new and you're not sure where you're going, stop in a store or a cafe to look at a map or ask for directions. Try not to look like you're lost when you're out in public, because that can just be bad for people seeing you as an outsider and try to take advantage of the fact that you're not from around there. So just be careful, try to be confident and look like you know where you're going. Driving is strongly not recommended by UGA at all while you're traveling abroad. So if you do drive, you're going to want to make sure that your license is valid internationally, but that is a very time-consuming process and difficult. And you know, you're not familiar with the traffic patterns. The street signs are going to be very different. You may not be used to the symbols or the laws there. You might be driving on the opposite side of the car, on the opposite side of the road, and so that is very difficult, especially when you're not familiar with that area. So, but just bottom line, we really ask you not to drive or rent a car or anything like that while you're abroad. Buses are really common, you know, they can be really easy to travel cross country, depending on where you are, but if you're going to use them as public transportation, you know, just getting to and from in your host city, you might find that the bus system there is very different than what you're used to using here at UGA. So you may be at a bus stop, but unless you flag down the bus, that bus may just keep going right on past you. So just try to get a sense of how that system works, and also try to have correct change on you at all times if you're going to buy your ticket on the bus, because a lot of the time those bus drivers will not exchange money or anything like that, and you have to have exact change. So just, you know, give yourself a heads up there with that. Okay, so wrapping things up, just some final logistics. Transfer credit approval form. If you haven't already, turn in your finalized TCAF as soon as possible. This must be an original hard copy document with all of the signatures and approvals necessary from the Office of International Education, language departments, or TERI if applicable, and your academic advisors. Don't load this up to your Go Abroad portal. We will do that, but we do not get notifications of that, and because we need these as soon as possible, just bring the hard copy to the office. If you're no longer in Athens, then just email it to your Education Abroad advisor and we'll take care of it. But again, please do not upload your TCAF to the Go Abroad portal when it's finished. Just give it to your advisor and then we'll handle it from there. But we need to have it on file here in OIE prior to departure for a number of reasons. So one, if you receive HOPE or Zell Miller or any other eligible financial aid, you won't get those if you do not have your transfer credit approval form finalized at OIE before you depart. So this is really critical to be able to use your financial aid here at UGA for your study abroad program, so just make sure that you have that taken care of. It's also critical for us to be able to determine your credit transfer and UGA class equivalencies in advance. So it's really difficult to do that if you're already studying abroad and taking these classes. if you're taking a class that doesn't come back to UGA for credit, then you've missed out on a number of credits there. So it's really important to get this done before you even go, so you know what classes you can or can't take. Once we have your finalized TCAF, we'll give you the permission of department to access the required STEX placeholder class. So you'll sign up for this in Athena, and your Education Abroad advisor will give you the instructions for how to do this, but we won't clear you for STEX until we have your final TCAF. So STEX allows us to disperse your financial aid to you and also holds a place for your credits to transfer back. So if you're not registered in STEX while you're studying abroad, you won't receive financial aid and your credits won't transfer. So again, really important to get that TCAF into us. More broadly, it maintains your UGA student status while you're abroad, and then you're able to participate on UGA Study Abroad Programs. So you do not have approval to study abroad if we do not have your final TCAF back in the office. So if you are, you have your courses on the TCAF and then you get abroad and it turns out that you're taking different courses that weren't originally on your transfer credit approval form, that's fine, but as soon as you realize that to be the case, alert OIE as soon as possible so that we can do that retroactive credit transfer determination, so that we can give you a heads up to say, hey, this course isn't going to transfer, try to take something else instead before it's too late. So, that's if you're changing classes, if the credits that you're attempting abroad changes, that influences your release of financial aid. So please, please let us know as soon as you realize that's the case for you. So I already mentioned a little bit about STEX registration. Again, this is a placeholder class for your credits to transfer into once your program is over and we receive your host transcript. But we will not give you POD access for this course until you have your final TCAF submitted to OIE. So STEX credits will be replaced with the transfer credits earned at your partner university. So in DegreeWorks, initially in Athena, it may say STEX 1001 or 1002. But once your program is over, we transfer your credits. STEX will be replaced with maybe Spanish 3080 or whatever the course will transfer back as. And once you do sign up for STEX, this is a variable credit course, so it's automatically set to 1 credit. But when you're registering, you're going to want to adjust that 1 credit to however many credits you are attempting while you're studying abroad. And this should match the credits that you've reported on your transfer credit approval form. So keep that in mind as you are finishing your TCAF, and to sign up for the correct amount of credits that you told your advisor you'll be taking on the TCAF. Because we also report that information to financial aid, and so those things have to match for your financial aid to be dispersed correctly. So it's just really important. If you aren't sure how many credits you listed that you'll be taking while you're studying abroad, check your Go Abroad portal application in the attached documents if your TCAF has already been uploaded there, and you can see what credits you signed up for. Or if you don't have that form uploaded yet, maybe you just recently turned it in, email your Education Abroad advisor to ask them for how many credits you said that you would be taking. And you're going to need to register in STEX before you study abroad. This is a course at UGA, so it follows the drop add periods, so you need to have this enrollment before you go abroad, or else you're not going to be able to register. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions, keep us updated, but once it's time for you to register for STEX, we'll send you step-by-step instructions so that you're not unsure what to do or how it works. Your advisor will send that to you directly. So just a little bit more about receiving financial aid. Just to continue to drive this home, your credit approval form and registration in STEX are required to maintain your student and financial aid status, and it's going to influence you being able to receive your HOPE or Zell Miller. So if you do receive Hope or Zell Miller and you're studying abroad on a non-UGA program, just keep in mind that those awards are based on the STEX enrollment at UGA and the specific number of U.S. credits that you've reported on your TCAF. So this, that award is going to match UGA in-state tuition rate based on the number of credits that you attempt abroad. So it's not going to match the tuition for your non-UGA program. So if you are going to the London School of Economics and you receive Zell, it's not going to cover the tuition for LSE because that tuition is not UGA tuition. It's just going to be in-state tuition that you can then use towards your program to help offset the cost there. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll receive that refund 10 days prior to the start of your program or the start of that same UGA term, whichever date comes later. So if UGA starts fall semester on, let's say, August 16th, but your program in Prague starts on August 20th, you're not going to get your refund on August 6th, which would be 10 days prior to UGA. You would receive it on August 10th, which is 10 days prior to your start date on the Prague program, because that comes after the start date at UGA. So just keep that in mind. So as you're paying your non-UGA program directly, you'll have to pay that out of pocket directly to your program, and then you'll receive your financial aid 10 days before you study abroad. So some programs do have a waiver process where you can waive their payment deadline for the amount of financial aid that you'll be expecting 10 days before the start of the program. So if there's a cost difference there, you'll have to pay that difference by their payment deadline if you have permission to then pay the rest of the program fee once you receive your financial aid. So if you're not sure if you can do that or how that would work, talk to your non-UGA program directly and then come talk to us, if we need to sign any papers, just confirming that that's how your financial aid is going to work. So yeah. If you have any questions, just keep us updated. And if you want more information about your particular financial aid package here at UGA, contact the Office of Student Financial Aid here at UGA to learn a little bit more about that. And then they can help you sort of plan for that, the cost of attendance for that program. So once you are coming home, and how transferring the credit works it's different for everybody on how long this process takes. But just for everybody, you have to take classes for credit and a grade in order for your credit to transfer back to UGA. So on your transcript, we can't just have a certificate of completion. It has to actually be a university transcript that shows how much credit was earned and then what the grade that you earned was. So make sure that you talk to your program about that. So if your program is going to issue you a U.S. transcript, so if you are going on, say, a program through IES abroad, your grades will be issued by the University of Rochester, and that's in a school in New York. So your grades from that U.S. transcript will appear on your UGA transcript and factor into your GPA here at UGA. So just keep that in mind as you are taking your classes, that it's going to impact your GPA if your program issues you a U.S. transcript. Now, if you're going on a program where you're going to receive a foreign transcript, that is usually programs like London School of Economics, where you're enrolled directly at a university abroad, or if you're on providers like ISA, where you may get your transcript from that local university in Barcelona that you're studying on. In that case, the grades that you earn on those programs do not affect your overall UGA GPA, but they will apply to your graduation honors. So keep that in mind. Overall, they'll just be satisfactory, unsatisfactory on your transcript, but If you're planning to graduate with honors, such as summa cum laude or magna cum laude or anything like that, then they're going to calculate the grades that you've earned in Barcelona into your UGA GPA. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to graduate with honors. And if you aren't sure which type of transcript you're going to receive from your program, talk to your study abroad program director, or ask your education abroad advisor to find out, to verify what you can expect with your transcript. It's going to take a bit of time for us to receive your transcript, so some programs are really quick about it. As soon as you're finished, within the next couple of weeks we may receive your transcript, but others take several months. So just be patient with that process. Once we do receive your transcript, we'll combine that with your transfer credit approval form and make sure that everything matches up, and then process that in our office before we send it to the Office of Undergraduate Admissions to then process your credit, and that can take them a couple weeks to do as well. So just know ahead of time that this can take a full semester upon your return for all of your credits to transfer, and everything to be all set there. So just keep a heads up. If you're studying abroad for a semester, and you need to register for courses back at UGA for the following semester. So if you're going abroad for the fall, and then while you're abroad you need to register for spring semester at UGA, just keep in mind to be in regular contact with your UGA academic advisor, to remind them that, hey, you're not at UGA, you're studying abroad, but you're still going to need any registration holds lifted so that you can register. So a good time to do that would be around UGA's midterm, maybe a couple months out. Just keep in regular contact with them so that you can make sure that you have all of that taken care of. You're going to want to make sure that once you have your registration time that you have good internet connection for when that happens. I know that you're trying to register really quickly to get the courses that you want, but also note the time difference too. So plan ahead for that, for once you get your time ticket, to make sure to schedule out time while you're abroad with good internet connection and that the time difference matches up. So you might be doing this at midnight while you're abroad. Just keep that in mind and be prepared for that. And then lastly, back to the subject of transcripts, make sure that you have your transcript mailed to the Office of International Education at that address, 1324 South Lumpkin Street, Athens, Georgia. It has to come directly to our office to process. It can't go straight to admissions. It can't go to you directly. It can't go to your academic advisor. It has to come to us. So make sure that you alert your program of that. You may have signed a form, but just everyone across the board, make sure before you leave that your program knows that we're going to receive your transcript. And so that's all of the things that you need to know before you go abroad. So we hope you have a great time, and if you have any questions at all as you're preparing to depart or even while you're abroad, we're here for you, so just please feel free to contact us. You can call us at that phone number, 706-542-2900, or you can email us at goabroad@uga.edu. Keep your education abroad advisor in the loop with any questions or concerns, and just be safe and have a great time abroad.